Hello and welcome everyone for this video tutorial on the identity module in aepp and it's also in Adobe Experience Platform. As a disclaimer, this series of videos are to explain Adobe Experience Platform, API wrapper, aepp, the Python module wrapper that I'm going to explain. And even if I am from Adobe, I'm not representing Adobe in those series of videos. Those are personal videos that I have done to explain the module itself, and therefore I may misrepresent Adobe Experience Platform at some point by omitting or oversimplifying the element for the purpose of explaining Adobe Experience Platform API endpoints, and therefore it's not a complete view of Adobe. It's not the Adobe official view on the different thing, but here at the same time I'm going to explain how Adobe Experience Platform works, all the different services, so you can better understand what you're doing when you're manipulating these different modules in aepp. That disclaimer done, we can start with the identity service in Adobe Experience Platform that I'm going to explain today. And this video will not have so much content on the Jupyter interface or using aepp itself, because the API is quite limited in that regard. But I will explain identity in Adobe Experience Platform in much more details, because I think this is a very important key piece, the same way that the schema is a key piece of the element for Adobe Experience Platform. This is also an important piece of information, so you know how Adobe Experience Platform works and what you are doing when you are manipulating data in Adobe Experience Platform. So in Adobe Experience Platform, in aepp, the system is based on ingestion of profile-based data. So every time you send a record, you send a payload to Adobe Experience Platform, you need to have an identity, especially a primary identity. What we call primary identity is the main identity that are going to be sent with your record. You can have more than one identity in your record. In that case, when that's happened, then you will create a link. For example, I'm in my web and I have a ECID, which is normally sent in my dataset number 3. Let's call it number 3. And here the ECID has at some point in time a logging functionality, because we are on the website and we want to log in. And then once I'm logged in, I can actually get the CRM ID, but let's call it CRM1. And when they are linked, they are going to link them. And when the profile record, the profile of Adobe Experience Platform is going to create the view of your user, is going to use both datasets that are using, in that case, we have only one dataset attached to CRM1. And in that case, we have only one dataset called dataset 3, TS3, and then we're going to use both datasets to create this 360 degrees view. This is how everything is working in Adobe Experience Platform, and what is the power of Adobe Experience Platform, and that's what you would like to make sure you understand. There are two ways to set an identity. Either you specify the string as an identity, and especially which namespace this string represents, or you use the identity map. I'm going to do an identity map overview in some minutes, actually some seconds maybe, and then we'll see what it is doing. The identity namespace that are defined in the identity module in Adobe Experience Platform explain which cluster of identity this value belongs to. So for example, ECID is a namespace, and ECID 1 will be in the namespace in the cluster of ECID. And then if you come back from the same browser, then you will have the same ECID, and then we know all of the events that you are sending are going to relate to the same user, and this cluster of user are going to be represented in a single view. Once created, the identity in your sandbox cannot be deleted. That is important to know, that you cannot create as many as you want and then you delete as many as you want. No, once it's created, you can actually not delete it. The only way to delete an identity is actually to reset your sandbox. So be very careful about that. You can create identity that you are never going to use. It doesn't impact much, but I would advise against that, of course. I want to do a quick view on identity map, because identity map may be misrepresented or misunderstood when you actually send the data. And identity map is a map data type, as its name is saying, and it's complex setup, and it exists mostly in aepp Web SDK tracking that is done mostly manually for the ECID. and it looks like this. It's identity map, and here you have the namespace you have defined, which is ECID. Be careful that the namespace is case sensitive in the edge, so you will need to specify. In that case of ECID, doesn't matter because this is done automatically for you via the edge. But for all of the other identity you are specifying, you need to specify in the camel case or different casing you have specified them. Then the ID is the value of your identity ECID in that case. And you have authenticated state that can be ambiguous, unauthenticated, logged out, or authenticated. And if it's your primary, the primary flag will tell where this record is going to be stored, because each record on your dataset are going to be stored at the layer to their primary identity. So if you have a user coming from your ECID and has also a CRM ID, when you have ECID true, all of the records are going to be attached to this ECID value. If you have CRM ID as primary true, then the record will be attached to the CRM ID value. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter because it's a single view of the user in the 360-degree view. But at data storage and at profile computing, you will see it can have some impact, and we're going to see that in a few moments. That's the default setup that is recommended, and it's actually part of the default experience event setup, experience event class setup, that you have identity map available. You can use identity map at that point. It's not recommended to do it for profile data. Why that? First, it can be overwritten. We're going to see that in a minute. And also, second, it's then make it not clear what type of identity you have in which profile data set. So it's better to be explicit about identity naming. You can still use identity map if you want to be dynamic and define which identity are being sent in your profile dataset at runtime. So you do one record with one CRM ID and another record with another CRM ID, and you can just bounce back like this. However, the best practice would be to create a dataset for each of those different identities and namespace, and then you can actually group them or not group them depending on what you want to do, because then once everything is one dataset, there is no technical way for you to see them differently except doing complex query or complex segmentation. So it's this way around. So in identity, one of the capability that I want to discuss is the linking graph rules. I'm going to go into Adobe Experience Platform and go to the identity set. So identity is in the customer and identity here. You can create a new identity namespace here. You can also do that in the API, of course. But one of the important elements, and actually I didn't mention, is that you can have different type of identity. And when you create an identity namespace, you can see that you can select which type of identity you are using. Cookie ID is for things that are going to be going away. Then individual cross ID is mostly your CRM ID, email, and all of the things. The hardware ID is for device like applications, so iPhone, iPad, GID for Android, but also for other type of application that if you are in your cars or if you have a fridge, whatever information are being tracked. The phone number, our phone number, email as a specific namespace due to our Adobe campaign capability, and AGO as well. That is our emailing system, or not emailing system, but orchestrator and journey orchestrator for emailing, and partly, but not only. You can have partner ID if you want to share data with other people in Adobe Experience Platform, with other organizations. So most of the time you're using individual cross device ID. There is a non-people identifier that could represent non-people data. So if you want to create a classification of a product, for example, you have an SKU, and you want to add more information to that specific queue, such as the category of the product, the name of the product, and so forth. Normally what you will do, you will create a specific class And this specific class will actually contain all of those as a flattened format. You will have the SKU, and then after the product name, product category, product whatever you want to have. And then the SKU will have the non-people identifier, and you will be able to link any event that is being done in your event dataset with this capability. So one of the important part of the identity things is the setting you can set up, and this is what I'm going to go through linking graph rules. So I'm going back to my PowerPoint now, and I want you to understand what could happen with what we call profile collapse. What's happening at some point in time is most of the time is that you think you have a user that is logging in via their desktop, and then they are going to be attached to a CRM ID. So you have ECID1 here, and it's connected to CRM ID2. This is going to, in that example, I have 3 datasets, and when you are going to see your profile, all of the information related to those 3 datasets are going to be grouped together, and you're going to see your view as 360 degrees. However, at the moment you have shared devices, which called, in that case, ECID1 to be logged into 2 IDs, CRM1 and CRM2 IDs, then the problems happen that the 3 datasets that are representing CRM1, especially dataset 1 and dataset 2, they are going to be overwritten by the value that are done with dataset 1 and dataset 2, because the profile attributes are always overwritten. Event is less of a problem. It's still a problem because you're going to have event done by the user on CRM2, the user defined by CRM2 attached to the event data CRM1, and this is going to merge the capability, merge the different attributes together for the profile, but for the event, they are going to live together. It will still qualify user for like CRM ID1 for event that has been done by CRM ID2, and that would be a problem, but it's less a problem that actually if you change a name, so if here it's the like say a couple living in the same house, then actually you will want to target the woman or the man, and then the other woman or the other man is actually in the email name, title, or anything like this. So this could be a very big problem, and it could be a very big problem if you have a very large website that have many people and do not have a shared device problems. From experience, it can be up from 2% to up to 15% of your profile setup. So it's actually could be quite problematic when 15% of your profile is actually merging data from different users into one different user that should not be the same user. So for that, what has been being developed in Adobe Experience Platform is to have a linking graph rule. So when you set up a linking graph rule, you're going to set up the definition of which identity you want to have as unique, and those cannot be twice in the same profile. So if I come back to my previous example, we will define CRM1 and CRM2, or the namespace itself as being unique, so you cannot have a profile with CRM1 and CRM2. It will automatically split that profile into 2. The thing that what you are doing that, anything that you are sending in profile will be overwritten by the priority you have to define. Then what is going to happen? So first, this is if you have used identity map and you have set primary IDs, it doesn't matter anymore because the linking graph rules for profile event or for profile data that you are going to send are going to be overwritten by the rule you have defined. Then you will reallocate all unauthenticated event to the latest identity loaded. We're going to see an example in a moment, but that is going to impact how your segmentation membership will be defined, especially based on event data unauthenticated, like on website or things like this. And the linking graph rule can only set up only up to 3 identities, so you can have only 3 identities that could be unique. If more than one unique identity, the priority needs to be set, and this is going to overwrite, I was explaining at the beginning, any of the setup you are going to have in the profile data ingestion. So if you have two CRM ID, so CRM ID and CRM ID2 as two different namespace, not if values, then if you have sent CRM ID and as the primary one, that should be unique, and CRM ID2 as the should be unique but as a second tier, and if you send the reverse in the payload, it will automatically switch it back based on the linking graph rule you have defined. So it need to be very careful on that setup. I will recommend you to read everything. It's very complex. I'm trying to give you an overview and at least make you aware of that capability before you set up. So in my example here, we have said CRM is actually primary and should not be two. So what's going to happen is that the latest, which in my example is CRM2, is going to have all of the data related to ECID1. When ECID1 is not authenticated, because you may tell me, yeah, Julian, if it has been linked to CRM1 and not only to CRM2, it means that at some point in time he has CRM1 and CRM2 in his payload. So we had the connection made between ECID1 and CRM1. And that is true, which means that then all of the data that are actually attached to the CRM ID. So imagine you have all the different rows of data or events that have been loaded. And you see in that case, we have a primary identity CRM1 and secondary ECID1. All of the data will still remain with CRM1. So you will still have the event done by ECID1 when it was connected as CRM1 and all of the data associated with it. All of the other event and the event, of course, associated with primary CRM2 will stay with CRM2, and that is the intended purpose of the linking graph rule. And this is something that impacts you in the way that you're defining segment, of course, and the qualification of the segment based on event, but at least you need to be aware of that. And this can be done if you have now CRM3 coming into the house and so forth. This will always pass on unauthenticated events will always be passed on to the latest logged in value. It takes up to 24 hours to reallocate all of those due to linking graph rule and the batch processing. But then everything will be reallocated to the latest one. All of the authenticated events will remain with the ID that has been defined in the event. The aepp capability and identity, however, is very limited. We don't have the linking graph rule setup available via API. So it's only in the UI, and what you can do in aepp is actually create new identity, create B2B identity, or understand which identity has been set up. So we are going just to do it quickly on this one. I go back, I have all of my recording that I've done today, and here I'm going to start a new notebook. So I'm going to open in terminal here and going to do a Jupyter Lab. And here, one important information you will need to know when you create identity. So I'm going to create a new notebook now, and then from aepp import identity. And now I'm going to import the prod configuration. So I'm going to do import aepp.import and then tab to autocomplete, which obviously is not, oh, I didn't import aepp itself. So import aepp, import config file. And here it's going to be aepp. I'm going to do tab to autocomplete demo. You can specify the sandbox. I'm not going to do that because my sandbox is automatically done to prod. And then I'm going to do connect instance equals true. And now I'm going to specify here the identity. And here my identity, call it like this. What I want to show you is that when you specify this, you have the configuration. When you said, okay, I want to now connect to the identity API, and you can specify the production. You will then also to specify the region, because as we are living in a world with different regulation regarding PII information and information regarding the user. Each region have different regulation concerning storage and so on. So a region needs to be defined when you load that. And you will see here the different region that you can have. So it's by default NLD2, but you can have VA7 for the US, Australia, Canada, and India are defined like this. For me, my instance, even if I am based, you can probably hear my accent, I'm based in Europe. I'm actually going to use an instance with VA7, so I'm going to use VA7 here as the elements, and then I can actually load that, and now I can do get my identities here, and you will see all of my identities, and you can have only custom equals true, and I can see only the one that have been custom made from my instance. So these are the main thing. As I was explaining before, you can also do my identity, create identity as well. And this method contains some parameters. You can specify the name. The code is the name of the namespace you're going to use everywhere. So the name is more the display name. The code is more important. You need to specify which ID type. You see all of the different value I was explaining before, and the description. And if you want to specify directly the dictionary and don't specify the parameters one by one, you can also directly set that here. So that was the video on the identity. I hope it was helpful to understand what the capability in Adobe Express Platform is regarding the identity setup. And I see you on the next video.